Hi, my name's Graham Boyack, and I'm delighted to be able to speak to you today about Scottish mediation. I do hope you're enjoying the mediation course that you're doing, and that some of what I've got to say will be of some use in thinking about what you do next after you've completed your course. So firstly, I'd like just to say what I'd like to try and get across to you today, and that is to let you know a bit about Scottish mediation, how it can help you, and how you can get involved, and also to inform you about the regulation and promotion of mediation in Scotland and how you can become a registered mediator. So firstly, about Scottish mediation, I'd like to cover what we do, how you help, how we can help you, and how you might get involved. So we've got four key areas where Scottish mediation works. The first is as a voice for mediation in Scotland. And that's to represent mediators to a range of different bodies, whether they be in legal circles or government circles or wherever mediation is being talked about. I think one of our biggest roles is that we provide a place where people can exchange views, they can talk about mediation, and they can meet other mediators. A key part of our work is the development of standards, so that the public can be assured that if they engage a mediator, that in Scotland there are decent standards by which those mediators have to complete before they can become a registered mediator. The final area, and one of the most challenging ones, is that we work to help development policy. They're policies usually for people like government, who have a key role in being able to facilitate the use of mediation. And that's something we've been working hard on over the last number of years, particularly in the area of the law. We've been working very hard to make sure that mediation is a part of the court system in Scotland. In Scottish mediation, we work on a number of different projects to help promote mediation. The first is that we run a helpline, and that's a 24-hour telephone service, which is available to anybody in Scotland who maybe wants to connect to a mediator, to find out a bit more about mediation, or even just to understand if their dispute is suitable for mediation. The helpline is staffed by Scottish mediation staff, and we have an answer phone service which picks up messages at any time of the day. We've also been working within the NHS in Scotland to help people who have complaints to maybe come to a better resolution by use of mediation. And we have a panel of mediators who support that work. We've also been working across all the different NHS boards in Scotland to provide opportunities for staff in the NHS to understand what mediation is and to be able to pick up some of the key skills, not to become mediators, but just to help them with some of the different conversations that are taking place. One of the areas I'm most proud of is the work that we've been doing in what we call peer mediation. In the last year, we've spoken to over 800 students in schools across the whole of Fife as part of a big project with Fife Council to be able to equip people from the age of P6 upwards to be able to resolve their own disputes in schools, thus taking away valuable time in lessons and of teachers, and also giving people which I think are skills for life. We've been working with an organisation called Safe Deposit Scotland with a view to helping people in the rented sector who have disputes and providing an opportunity for them to be able to access mediation. We've also been working with landlords and agents to train them in some of the skills of mediation so that when issues come up, they're in a better position to be able to think about how they might resolve them without having to go to court or various other options. One of the projects we've been working on longest is our third sector project. That was generated 5 years ago. And what we have now is we've partnered with the main third sector organisations and charities in Scotland so that if a dispute arises in any of those organisations, there's an opportunity to use mediation at a charitable rate to be able to help resolve their disputes. Part of that scheme is that where the charity is particularly small, we'll provide free mediation services for those involved, which is a great opportunity for charities to be able to resolve their disputes, but also we think it's a great area so that mediators can learn their trade. The final initiative, which we're continuing to work on, is called the Scottish Mediation Charter, and it's an opportunity for organisations to be able to commit to using mediation where appropriate and training their staff in the skills of mediation where appropriate. We've got quite a number of signatories to the Charter across Scotland, including a number of universities, including St Andrews University, small organisations, and some of Scotland's councils. The other key area where Scottish mediation provides a lot of work is on that of maintaining standards in mediation. We do this in a number of ways. One of them is by accrediting training, which people carry out so that people can become mediators. So we look at that training, see how it's developed, and make sure it matches the minimum standards that we think are appropriate for somebody to become a mediator. We run CPD and events, that's continuous professional development, in order that mediators can continue to maintain their skills once they've qualified and have an opportunity to learn about particular areas of mediation or particular types of mediation. We look to provide mediators with experience, and one of the ways that we do that is by schemes like our third sector scheme, and there's also opportunities to work in some of the Scottish courts, and that's done on what we call a co-mediation basis. And part of that's very important because if you've qualified as a mediator, in order to become onto the register, you need to have gained a certain amount of experience in co-mediation to be able to mediate on your own. Alongside that, we have what we call practice standards, which is what the standards that we would expect mediators to be able to achieve to practice in particular areas. So for example, in family mediation, we set a higher bar and they have to undergo further training than the basic training in order to work in that area. Finally, the other area where we work on in standards, and it's work we've been doing over the past year, is on what we call our Code of Professional Conduct. And that's so that the public can understand how mediators are supposed to operate, what's right, what's wrong, and in the final outcome, if something goes wrong, what they can do about it. One of our main events that we run every year is called Mediate 23, and it's a one-day conference. This year it's going to be in Edinburgh, and there'll be an opportunity to meet other mediators. We have keynotes and workshop sessions, and we also run special student rates for the conference, and that includes anybody who's been training as a mediator, whether that be on a course at a university or indeed any of the other ones that run. It's on the 11th of November in Edinburgh, and it's certainly something we can easily provide more information on if it's something you would like to come to. In terms of Scottish Mediation, we're a membership organisation, and we're open to organisations, individuals, and students to be able to join us. For that membership subscription, you're able to access our events and CPD at a reduced rate. You get access to networking, and you can also get access to the projects that we run, and indeed to a special members section on our website. This is something which we can make more information available to you on, and something I would encourage you to think about. Just before I go on to talk about how to join the Scottish Mediation Register, just a quick word on trends in mediation. One of the things since the pandemic that's become apparent is a massive increase in the amount of online mediation. And it's been interesting to see how that works. Certainly a lot of mediators have found it a really convenient way for both them and the parties to conduct mediation. And in some instances, it's actually helped people make more relaxed and feel more comfortable because they're not sitting in the room with the other person. It's also developed that since the pandemic, and people have been reflecting on how things have worked with online mediation, that some people are using what we'd call a mix and match approach. So some of the sessions which are being held, and particularly often the initial session, just to find out what the dispute is about and to introduce the mediator, might be carried out online, whereas there might then be an opportunity to bring people together in a room in person, to be able to conduct the rest of the mediation. We've certainly found that the trends in mediation have led us to being working on a wider policy approach on areas such as the environment and housing and social policy. And we've been developing a number of different initiatives in these areas in order to make sure that mediation is used more. So, how might you become a registered mediator? So the main things that I want to cover are the qualifications that you need, the experience of mediation you need, and then what happens when you get on the register and how you stay registered. So there's a number of different routes. There's what we would call standard courses, university-based courses, and there's also family mediation through organisations such as Relationship Scotland and CAM Scotland. The main course content that somebody needs in order to become a registered mediator is that the course must be a minimum of 40 hours. It must include a mixture of theory and practical activity. And in that practical activity, we stipulate that there must be a minimum of 20 hours role play. We've said that the delivery can be either in person, hybrid, or online. In terms of the qualifications that you need to get onto those courses, we found that there's really quite a wide variance. For some, it's formal qualifications. For some, it's life skills. And for other, it's work experience. But certainly what we have found is that people bring all sorts of different experiences to mediation. And I think that that's something that's really useful because it helps to shape the future of mediation as well. So in terms of the register and standards, one of the things that if you join the register is that you're committing to the Code of Professional Conduct and to Scottish Mediation's practice standards. They're quite similar to other mediation organisations across the world because when we've been looking to update those, that's one of the things that we've done is to look at other countries and see how they register their mediators. So to join the register, you need your initial qualification, which could well be the course that you're doing just now. You then need to get experience, and that experience is a mixture of conducting some mediations, usually as a co-mediator, and then getting some continuous professional development after your course in order that you've got some wider perspective before you join the register. You then make your application to Scottish Mediation, and there's a video on our website about how you can do that. And we'll also be holding seminars, usually twice a year, where we give briefings on how you might become a registered mediator. The next bit is that you need to keep up to date. So every year we ask people to submit a note of the mediations they've conducted and also the training and development that they've attended in order to make sure that they're meeting the standards which apply. As I said earlier, we try and provide some opportunities through our third sector scheme and through our helpline scheme as opportunities for mediators to pick up co-mediation experience, and the other opportunity exists through the Sheriff Court mediation projects across Scotland. The final thing that you need to have is to be covered by insurance. And there's a number of different ways of doing that, and we can provide more details about that, but it's basically professional indemnity insurance so that if something goes wrong in the mediation, that everybody's covered. So in terms of the annual requirements to stay registered, as I said, you have to do a certain number of hours of mediation, and we now operate a point system for our continuous professional development, which gives you extra points for planning sessions and running your own sessions. It gives you extra points for undertaking what we would call peer type or supervision types of training. And we also recognise a range of different things like reading, attending other seminars, and so on. And the details of those are included in the documents that we provide for people. We operate a complaints and concerns system so that if you, as a mediator, are working and somebody complains about your work, either you or if you're with an organisation would deal with that complaint in the first instance. And if somebody was unhappy about that, they would have the opportunity to complain to Scottish Mediation, and then we would hear that and take a decision on that based on a panel approach. It's a two-step approach, which we think is a fair way of looking at things. In terms of the other mediation organisations that exist in Scotland, there's ourselves, there's Relationship Scotland, there's the Scottish Community Mediation Network. The Law Society and the Faculty of Advocates have sections who look at mediation. And then the other bodies I would point to would be, there's an organisation called CAM Scotland, who are family lawyers who also do mediation. There's an organisation called Catalyst, Core Solutions, and the Scottish Centre for Conflict Resolution. At this point, I would normally take any questions, but if there are any questions, then I'm sure you'll be able to give them to the course organiser, and if they email us, then I'm sure we'll be able to come back, hopefully, with an answer that's suitable.